European coalition and U.S. air backing, post-war security guarantees for Ukraine. Sep 5th, primary sources, Washington Post, Reuters, Associated Press, executive summary. At the Paris summit on September 4, 2025, European leaders, encouraged by President Trump, committed to providing Ukraine with post-war security guarantees. A coalition of 26 nations agreed to form a reassurance force to be deployed only after a ceasefire, combining land troops, naval presence in the Black Sea, and air protection. France and the UK will lead the European contingent. The United States pledged no ground troops but promised air support and intelligence assistance. Some countries, including Italy and Bulgaria, ruled out troop deployments, but will contribute to ceasefire monitoring and maritime security. This operationalizes the Coalition of the Willing, first launched in London in March 2025, turning European promises into concrete commitments, with the U.S. in a supportive but non-leading role. Structured opinion, BBIU analysis, European coalition, U.S. air power, and the fractured architecture of post-war guarantees for Ukraine. The Paris summit of September 4, 2025, has been framed as a turning point in Europe's willingness to assume responsibility for Ukrainian security. Yet a deeper reading reveals something closer to the Warring States period: a fragmented system of asymmetric commitments, competing leadership claims, and hidden financial pathways that define real power. Won the frontier as destiny. For Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Hungary, Finland, and the Baltics, Ukraine's collapse would put Russia on their borders. Poland is investing in U.S. and Korean armor to prepare as the next battlefield. Romania sees the Black Sea dimension, while Finland and the Baltics view Ukraine's fall as a prelude to their own vulnerability. Their contributions are survival reflexes. 2. The Central European dilemma. Germany, Austria, Czechia, and Bulgaria face strategic but not existential risks. Collapse in Ukraine means refugee flows, energy shocks, and industrial insecurity. Yet they hesitate to commit troops, Germany rearming but cautious, Austria shielded by neutrality, Bulgaria exposed to Black Sea pressure. This zone understands the stakes but resists early costs, betting on delay. 3. The Western theater of symbolism. France and the UK act as hegemons within the coalition. Their leadership is less about troop numbers and more about maintaining Europe's credibility as a military actor. France anchors with its nuclear deterrent and expeditionary forces. The UK projects with carriers and intelligence networks. Beyond them, Western and Southern members like Italy, Spain, Portugal, Greece, and Ireland participate mainly for legitimacy, not survival. Their risks are reputational and economic, not territorial. 4. The invisible layer. Money and industry. The coalition's strength lies in financial transfers and defense industrial contracts. U.S. leverage is in intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, drones, and long-range strike, ensuring influence without ground troops. European states unwilling to send troops contribute funds instead, like Italy and Bulgaria with naval monitoring. Defense firms, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, BAE, Dassault, Rheinmetall, are the quiet beneficiaries. The real maxim: follow the money. 5. The paradox of collective unity. The coalition is not NATO. It lacks Article 5 and functions as a confederation of convenience. The Paris Declaration is staged unity. Real fighters include France, UK, Poland, Romania, Baltics, and Finland. Germany, Austria, Czechia, and Bulgaria are hesitant strategists. Italy, Spain, Portugal, Greece, and others are symbolic signatories. This mirrors the Warring States era. Coalitions formed under banners of unity, but members pursued survival calculus. 6. The role of the United States, Zhou without empire. In classical China, the Zhou king retained ritual authority but ceded real power to hegemonic states. The U.S. today occupies a similar role. Trump plays the ritual emperor, holding legitimacy and symbolic sanction. France and the UK act as hegemon states, taking risk at the frontier of European credibility. Smaller members behave as vassals, showing outward obedience while maintaining autonomy and even discreet channels to Moscow. This layered system makes the coalition look formidable on paper, but fragile under combat or escalation. Annex Ukraine's economy pre- and post-war and the US-EU position. A. Pre-war snapshot 2019 to 2021. Sectoral structure: services about 60% of GDP, industry including construction around 20%, agriculture roughly 10%. Donbass as industrial core. Donetsk and Luhansk made up 15% of GDP and 25 to 30% of exports in 2013. Energy. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant generated 20% of electricity, with nuclear at 55% of the 2021 mix. Ports. 157 million tons of cargo in 2021, led by grain and iron and steel. B. Shocks. 2022-2025 and the starting point for post-war. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant offline created a 20% electricity gap covered by EU imports, renewables, and grid balancing. The Kakhovka Dam destruction left about 600,000 hectares without irrigation, hitting agricultural exports. Ports. Partial reopening of the Black Sea corridor pushed 2024 throughput to 97 million tons, up 57% year over year, but still down 37% from 2021. By 2025, the sea corridor handled 120 million tons. Reconstruction needs rose from $486 billion in 2024 to $524 billion in 2025, nearly 3 times Ukraine's GDP. Growth, fragile, with EBRD forecasting 3.3% in 2025 under war. C. Post-war baseline scenario. Less nuclear, steel, and heavy industry, more services, agriculture, and light manufacturing. Ports remain below capacity, with a 60 million ton gap constraining revenues. Disputed regions concentrated heavy industry and energy. A reduced Ukraine becomes more service-oriented with fragile energy and truncated heavy industry until reconstruction arrives. D. Financing. EU pledged €50 billion through the Ukraine facility, plus $150 billion in loans for arms. G7 loan of $50 billion backed by frozen Russian asset income. U.S. role, ISR, Patriot air defense, Starlink, missiles, but no ground troops. America contributes about $20 billion via the G7 loan with cautious escalation rules.